Shalom, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. It's great to be back with this fascinating topic, which is biomedic ethics, or as we like to call it, medical halakha. And for that, in a minute, I'm going to introduce to all of you again to my dear son Marcelo, who is waiting patiently until I introduce him for this new session. So before we do that, just remember, if this is the first time that you catch one of our streams, I would like you please to subscribe to our channels, so you will have the opportunity to be notified every time we go live or every time we upload something to the internet. So remember, subscribe, and you have to hit the bell. So that's the key to receive all the notifications. And so we have, once again, all the way from Chile, my son Marcelo Mas Lindenbaum. And let me bring him here to the stream. Well, hello. Hello,
Hi,
Marcelo.
hi, Dad. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure being here again.
How are you doing?
Good, good, and you?
Good. How is the weather in Chile?
The weather we had, it was strange. We had rain in the middle of the summer. Pretty strange. We're not a tropical country, so it was really strange. But,
Yeah, you were telling me that I remember I've been there for many years, and I can't remember rain in the summer. By the way, for those who may not be aware, Chile being in South America, we have opposite seasons, right? Here we're in the middle of the winter, they're in the middle of the summer. But I said 8 years, never rain in the summer. In fact, it's so convenient. If you want to get married, you can just go ahead and plan it outside because it's a safe bet. Right?
yeah,
Not
yeah,
so safe anymore.
yeah. Global warming,
Maybe.
changing everything. Okay, so first we have our grandma, my grandma, on the chat.
Yeah,
So
I saw her.
let's send some regards. Hola, Babe. Un beso.
Hola, mami. I
Yeah.
don't know if you were tuned, Marcelo, if you were tuned to our streams for the service, Rabbi Matthew always makes fun of me because my mom is always there, right? So Matthew takes the microphone and says, "Hola, mami." They're always the same joke. Yeah, it's fun. Okay, so we see so many people already connected. Welcome, everyone. I hope you have your questions. And if there is any questions that we still have from last week, we will be happy to try to answer those questions as well. And I was realizing that somehow this is connected to whatever we were talking last week, because many of the Jewish values involving one, they repeat, right? I mean, for
right.
organs donation,
Yeah.
especially topics of
Cholele Fanim was one. Right.
or vadai versus safek,
Right. Yeah.
when something is for sure or you don't really know,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it will affect. And in fact, I was trying to remember how the concept of doubt in halakha is huge.
Yeah.
And it can play both ways sometimes. But the concept of doubt is ever present. And I remember a story that I studied once. I don't know where it's coming from, but it was talking about that. Let's say that you have a dream, right?
Mhm.
And in the dream, a dead relative comes to you and said, "Before I died, I promised money to the synagogue, and that money is under the floor." Right? And then you go there. When you wake up, you go there and you find the money. Should you give it to the synagogue or not? And then the rabbi said, because it's not sure, right? Is it really somebody else coming to talk to you? Or maybe it was something that you ate last night, or maybe it was because you cannot be sure, you don't have to, right? But then the same rabbi said, but if you have a dream, and in the dream you made an oath, or a vow,
Right.
when you wake up, you have to go to the rabbis and to annul the vow, just in case, because there is doubt. What if it's valid, right?
Right.
So this is interesting, because when you have doubt, you can go one way or the other.
Very interesting. You know that when you have a dream that is very disturbing and relates to bad, negative things. There's something called nullification of dreams. You should look it up in a Siddur. It's very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, relating to that. I remembered.
Yeah, but I remember studying that the rabbis recognize 3 sources for dreams. And it says one is it's coming from the other world.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It could be a spirit or something. They leave that option open.
Mm-hmm.
But number 2, and it's interesting because this was written over 2,000 years ago, and it could be something that you ate. And in these days, it could also, we know that depends, sometimes you eat too much, and then you may have a nightmare.
Right.
And then he said that the third reason is the kind of thoughts that you had during the day, which is some kind of, subconscious mind message that sometimes you get.
Right.
It's yeah.
Weird thing. Dreams are really, really weird.
Yeah, maybe in the future we should talk about that.
Yeah, interesting topic. Maybe you can make a class with a dream expert, psychologist, psychiatrist, maybe.
Yeah, that there is a famous joke about the dreams. That it was it's very appropriate actually, because now we are approaching St. Valentine's Day here in North America, right? So it was the morning, St. Valentine's Day, and the wife says to her husband, he said, "I had a dream last night, so I dreamed with a diamond ring. What do you think that means?" And the guy said, "Tonight, you will know." So she gets all excited, right? And at night, they have fancy dinners with candles and music. And during the dinner, the man gives his wife a package. She gets all excited. She opens the package, and there is a book called The Meaning of the Dreams. Because now she knows what a diamond ring means. Okay. Anyhow, so who isn't connected already? Before we start talking, of course, we have Shelly Chochinov, we have Rina, Sectoral Buzz, we have Robert Didich, Rochelle Littman, Claire Whiteman. Good evening, Claire. Good to see you connected. Phyllis Laveman, that she's welcome you back. Phyllis, she's a dear congregant, Shari Zedek. So before we begin, some questions that they remain unanswered from last week. What do you want to study after you finish university? Some people ask me.
I mean, what's medical specialty I want?
Yeah, medical specialty. Yes.
Yeah, I like the surgical area. I want to be a surgeon. And specifically, I like a lot the area of urology.
Oh, you've been writing papers about it, right?
Yeah. I've been a lot involved in research here in Chile, clinical research. And yeah, I like it very much.
You were lucky that you got a great mentor in the area.
Yeah, that was fundamental. I got a great mentor. He's a specialist in pelvic floor medicine. That's female urology, and he brought me in, and he helped me do research and everything. So yeah.
And then open to travel for a specialty?
Yeah, could be. I'm open to everything.
And then people ask, are you single?
Yeah, I'm single.
Okay. So, ladies, you have my email. Just let me know. We may have a shidduch after. Yeah. Who knows? Right?
Who knows? Yeah,
who knows?
Only God knows.
Yeah. So, okay, let's dig in this, because the concept of organ donation is a fascinating one. It's something that is relatively new in history. Something that it was unthinkable a few centuries ago, to take a body part from somebody, put it in somebody else.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It's what would you say, the earliest attempt? What was it? Blood?
Yeah, it was blood.
Right. And
I don't know the specifics really, but yeah, blood was one of the first. Yeah.
And it's yeah, and from there, but then you can imagine how rabbis have to figure things out
Right.
in something that is starting to evolve really, really, really fast. And I will say that we still don't have all the answers, right?
No. Right.
Every day seems to be something new.
Yeah.
But there are certain Jewish values, as we mentioned last time, that seems to be always the one being applied to medical issues.
Yeah.
And you would say that one of the things that seems to be very important is the safek.
Right.
Which is, if you can remind us what safek is.
Safek means doubt in Hebrew. There's a doubt if, for example, someone has a risk to his life. There's a doubt. That's the concept. It's a safek, right? So that's the concept of doubt, safek. How we can apply it? We can apply it. We're going to explain in the future, like what it means when we have a doubt. We can use it both ways, right? We can be stringent or we can be lenient. Okay, so let's get that straight from now. We can use it both ways.
And it also is probably related to, because when we are talking about saving a life,
right,
then you can go one way, and it's something that is not necessarily to save a life.
Yeah.
But it's also, safek could apply to yourself, because if you could help somebody else by donating an organ, then you are putting yourself at risk.
Yeah. So
that seems to be a problem, because in Judaism we have the prohibition, to harm our bodies, especially in cases that you will harm your body for sure if you open it in any way.
Yeah.
So that's what it starts getting complicated, I would say.
Yeah, because you have a doubt that there's going to be a risk of a future complication or even death, right, when you donate an organ. So the classic example is kidney, for example. Okay? So in kidney transplants, the risk to the donator nowadays is really low. Okay? But there are still some opinions that say that you shouldn't put yourself in harm's way, right? Because there's a safek, there's this doubt that you're gonna putting yourself in harm's way, right? The risks are small, but
they're still there.
They're still there, right? When they teach us, when you're doing an informed consent to a patient when he's gonna have a surgery, doesn't matter the number of the risk. It could be 1%, it could be 0.5%. You always have to tell the patient. Every surgery has a risk, right? Doesn't matter how small it is, there is a risk. So we have that concept also in halacha, right?
That somehow somebody has to be measuring the risk.
Yeah.
Every time. And that's why, and this is what I found fascinating, is that doesn't matter if we are talking about organ donations with the patient alive or organ donations after death, the recommendation for a Jew is always to ask a rabbi. It's not that you can have a general principle, so now go and do it your way.
Right.
It's amazing because every situation is different.
Yes. So the question really is, what is so bad in Judaism with doing this, right? Why can't you go and do something without consulting someone, a Rav in this case, right? Because in organ transplants, we have the big prohibition of desecrating the dead in the case of dead donor transplants. And also, we have the prohibition of putting ourselves in harm's way, right? We're harming our bodies when we don't have to, right? So those are really the questions that should be asked. So every case is different. So that is why you should have a competent Rav who knows what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, so many things that, and I think it happens pretty much in everything in life. There are always things that we cannot see.
Right.
So you need somebody who help you, especially when you're in a situation which is so emotional.
Yes.
That will help you see things that you cannot see, or
Yes.
at least make you aware of certain things. Then, as you mentioned, then there are cases where the decision is yours if you want to put yourself at risk.
Right.
But you need somebody, like in medicine, you need somebody to tell you the risk. I guess from the halachic point of view, you need somebody to help you figure that out as well. And but we all know that in Judaism, saving a life is one of the greatest mitzvot.
Yes.
But probably the mitzvah that is above that one is that you cannot give up your life to save another life.
Yes.
Which is basically, I believe we call it chayecha kotmim. Your life comes first.
Yes.
And I remember the story from the Talmud in Baba Metzia that says that these two travelers in the desert.
Right.
Remember that one that they have only one bottle of water?
A bottle of water, yeah.
And if they share it,
they
both died.
Yeah.
So what do? And then there is this controversy. And then you have this guy, Ben Petora, who I don't know if I've ever heard him in another circumstance. But Ben Petora said they should both drink and both died. Right? And Rabbi Akiva said that's nonsense.
Yes.
Nonsense. Rabbi Akiva says, whoever owns the water should drink it and live. And unfortunately, the other person will die because we read in the Torah that your brother may live with you. If there is no you cannot help somebody else. So from there, they learn chayecha kotmim, your lives come first. But the principles we learn from there are amazing in the sense that, yes, we can help somebody else, but not if that means that you will die. So for me, this case of what I always learn from the story of the water is like, if you follow the words of Ben Petora, that they said, they should both drink and die, that means if there is somebody who is in need of a heart transplant, right?
Right.
He will say, well, your obligation is to give the other person half of your heart.
Right.
They will both die. And Rabbi Akiva said, no, right? You wish you could help the other person, but no, your life comes first. But then the question is, what if you don't have that certainty that you are going to die if you help the other person? What is the acceptable risk that a rabbi most likely will recommend?
Okay, so that's a really good question. What's the halachic approach to risk, right? So there are literally books about this. Okay, you could be hours reading papers, you could be hours reading letters to rabbis and what are their responses, right? Because today the modern halachic approach to these problems are someone asking a rabbi a question and in a letter and the rabbi responding in another letter, right?
Yeah,
that's what the book Igrot Moshe, the book of Rav Moshe Feinstein is. It's all his letters.
That's what people sometimes don't realize, that all these books of rabbis giving their opinions of different things are usually compilations of letters that they were sent to the rabbis during a period of time. And then usually either the rabbi's family or the rabbi's students will put them all together and publish it. And what I like about it is most of the time these rabbis will start saying, in my humble opinion.
Right. They don't give suck that they call in halacha. They don't give like a straightforward answer. They say, these are the precedents and this is what you can do, not what you should do, right?
So what is for example, what is Moshe Feinstein said about risk taking? Okay,
more about Rab Moshe Feinstein. Let's make a summary because we can literally speaking hours about this. Let's make a summary that they say that these are the majority of the halachic. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat. The majority of the halachic opinions say that when there's low risk, you must do it. Okay, you must do the donation. For example, blood. Donating blood is some halachic opinions even say it's an obligation. If you can do it, you're obliged to do it. Okay? When there is a 50-50 risk, okay, there's a doubt that maybe yes, maybe no, you can choose, and if you choose, you are doing a big mitzvah. That's saving a life. But you're not obligated to do it. And in the case where there's a big risk, you are forbidden to do it. That's like a summarized guideline that we can say about all the halachic opinions.
So there is a 50-50 approach, basically. So there is a threshold. It's a 50%. So if somebody tells you, if you go to see a doctor and the doctor says, according to my experience, the chances are 50-50.
Yes.
So in that case...
Let's say it's 50-50. In medicine, nothing is 50-50, right? I mean, everything changes, but
I guess
let's say it's 50-50. Let's say 50-50. The rabbis will say, take your chances.
If you want.
If you want, yes. You are not obliged to do it. But for example, donating blood has it has a little risk, right? I donated blood a week ago and I almost fainted, but whatever. It's a complication, no life risk, right? The thing is that, you are like obligated to do it. And they use the halachic principle of giving back what was lost, right? The health of the person. It's really interesting. There's not a mitzvah, a literal mitzvah of saving a life, right? We learn about saving life later on in the Mishnah, but the biblical mitzvah is giving back something that was lost. Right?
Restoring, the loss of restoration. So yeah. So it's a kal vachomer, right?
Right. So they say if you have something that can save a life of another person, why not do it, right?
Yeah, and actually I remember studying that at the seminary. That is a kal vachomer. It's like an even more so situation. Yeah. That is because the Torah says that if you find an object that belonged to somebody else, you have to return it to the owner.
Yeah, it's called hashavat aveidah in Hebrew.
So basically it said, if you have to restore an object, even more so the life. So if the Torah is talking about an object that is an inanimate thing, of course we have the obligation to restore the life of a person if we can. Because we also have I think it's also from Leviticus, that it said you should not stand idly
in the blood of your
neighbor.
Yeah.
So that's
you're obliged by those two things to actually, for example, donate blood when someone needs it. Right?
Yeah.
Those are the two biblical principles that we could apply there.
Yeah. And that's interesting because who was that? I believe it was Maimonides that says that you shall not stand idly. It means that even if you cannot do it personally, you have to do it through with money, like hiring somebody else.
Pay a doctor. Yeah.
So, for example, if somebody needs an organ and you are not a match, so you can't say sorry, I'm not a match, but you still have the obligation to help. So you may donate towards the surgery.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a way of fulfilling the mitzvah. So look who is here. My brother is saying, Leandro is my brother. He's saying hi from Argentina. So that's why we have too many people in the class. I have all my family watching, right?
Doesn't count if it's family, right?
No, but we have some very good questions because Sarah Bloomberg, she was asking, what about, for example, risking your life to save somebody else like the Jews did during the Shoah?
Right.
Is that the same category?
No, that's not the same category. I'm going to tell you why. All these books and all the rabbis, what they say is this is in the case of civilian medicine, okay? In wartime, or for example in the Shoah, that was worse than wartime, these laws don't apply, okay? So that is another category of risking yourself. In war, you can risk yourself for the sake of another person. But in civilian, let's call it civilian medicine, we don't. That's what the rabbis said. It's a very good question. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's fascinating. I never thought about that the concept of saving a life, as saving a life, comes at the time of the Mishnah as a concept.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the saying. It's from the Mishnah. Whoever saves a life is as he saved the whole world. Because every Jew is a world by himself, right?
And let me think. You bring all these memories of my time at the seminary when I studied that, and the concept of saving a life, saving the world, is coming from the concept, the theological concept that God created one human being at the beginning, which was Adam. From
Right.
Adam came Eve, and then from them we have entire world. But there
Yeah.
will be no world without them. So if one person can create an entire world, any person has the potential to create a world.
Yeah.
So that's another very important concept of the value of human life.
Right.
And that's why it's so important to protect the life, because every life has the potential to create a world. But I guess the same idea of protecting yourself. But going back to the risk taking.
Right. So in the summary, it's if there's low risk, you have to. If there's 50-50, you take your chances. For example, we talked this on the phone the other day. Let's say, I don't know, maybe my brother or my sister, he needs a kidney. And the doctor says to me, it's a 50-50 chance. I'm going to take it, right? I don't know you, but I would take it. Right? And the rabbis say, okay, you take it. It's a really big mitzvah. It's one of the biggest righteousness in the world you can do.
And that's the difference. And we were talking about the halachic difference between you should do it,
right, and you have to do it,
or versus when the rabbi said, I don't see a reason to prohibit it.
Yeah.
But it might, in the practice, it might be the same, but halachically it's not the same.
Yeah. So it's very good that you bring that up. Rabbi Tatz says, I'm gonna quote it. He says, wait 1 second. I have the book here. He says, okay, I have it right here. When a non-regenerating organ can be given to save a life, and the danger in the donation is small but real, the donor is free to agree to the procedure, but is not obliged to do so. Right? That's what he says. He says, you can do it. I don't see a reason to prohibit it.
Yeah,
right?
But Ovadia Yosef, for example, he said it's a mitzvah. You have to do it.
Yeah. Maybe you can apply it, but wait, there's a big difference. Because there's a difference between not doing a mitzvah and transgressing a commandment. Okay, so yeah, it's a mitzvah if you do it, but if you don't, maybe you're not transgressing something.
Yeah, but
maybe in the wording you have to be very careful, right?
Yeah. That's why I will say most rabbis will say I have no reason to prohibit it, because they have to be very careful of what they write.
Yeah.
That's why I was surprised to read from Rabbi, Ovadia Yosef, that he said specifically it's a mitzvah. He was very direct.
Yeah.
And I think he was specifically talking about kidney in the letter that he wrote.
Yeah, the kidney is the most classical case of live donor transplant, right?
And you were also saying that most rabbis will request that you should do it responding to a specific request.
Like what?
To a specific, like if you know that somebody who needs an organ,
right.
versus like a general.
Yeah. We spoke this on the phone the other day. There's this question: can Jews put themselves in organ donor lists, right? Or have this organ donor card that says, in the case that I have a fatal crash or something, my organs are free to go to anyone who needs them, right? So it's a very interesting question. The general approach is outside of Israel, and a place where that doesn't have the competent halachic authority, we don't do it. Okay, because in Judaism um, we respect the dead body, and that is a big principle. We don't desecrate the dead body, and anything that's done after death is desecrating the dead body, right? There are some in Israel. It's not a question. In Israel, the majority is Jewish, and there's in every hospital there's a competent Rav, right? And you can ask the question there. They have ethics committee, which are all they all study the subject, and there's no question, right? But in cases where halacha is not going to be followed, the majority of the rabbis say you shouldn't do it. Okay, but there is an exception. In the United States, there's this group that's called HODS, Halachic Organ Donor Society. And what they do is that they accompany the family of the person who wants to give the organ, and they make sure everything is done according to halakha. So that's the answer to that.
Yeah. So, but as I mentioned before, because if it's just a donor card, then you never know the circumstances that it will be around your death, and
Right.
the rabbis wanted to be sure that everything is case by case.
Right.
So, because if the time comes, can the family make a decision on your behalf?
Yeah. Yes, they can.
Okay.
It's called
basically-
surrogacy, of who's the surrogate of the patient or the health proxy, who takes the decisions, right? First goes the spouse, then goes the children, then go the siblings or parents, depending. But it goes on and on. But yeah, the family decides who takes the final decision of what happens.
And that's in halacha.
Yeah,
That's very interesting.
it's very logical also.
I'm wondering how it's that similar or different from civil law, right?
Yeah, it's very similar, right? In secular law, it's how it works. The family takes because I remember reading the case that what happens to a family that has this person who just died, and they have the option to give the organs in his place, right? And he didn't leave a living will, right? What do you do? So they asked the Rav, and he said that if the decision of saving a life goes to the family, right? Giving certain criteria according to halacha, right? So, yeah,
Goes to the family.
The decision goes to the family, right? Yeah.
But now, actually, we are more talking about somebody who is dead.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, but there is one thing before we go there. Before we go there, there is a question that I always had, and it's I would say ethically is the most complex one.
Okay.
And we never even talked about that before. And it's about paying for an organ.
Experiencing pain?
No, paying with money.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Buying an organ, right? Because if you want to be very analytical and very logical and to detach any kind of feelings from the equation, then you could say, even if he's ethically problematic, you can still say it's saving a life, right?
Yeah.
So saving a life takes
making money for it.
Yeah, but because of saving a life, so you could justify it.
Yeah.
Even though you know that in the long game, you may be helping to develop a black market.
Yeah. So,
have you ever read anything about it?
I read it like really lightly, and I remember that different rabbis said that they couldn't find an halachic reason not to allow it.
Because of saving a life.
Yeah.
So the consequences of doing something like that, wow.
Yeah. Wait, let me see.
Because it's something that you will see some countries will take more precautions than others.
Right.
But I guess it's because there are places that it's legal that you could, that you sell
Yeah.
your organ for money.
Right. So yeah, it's a really difficult question, but I don't know.
Let's
You
see
caught me
here.
there. You
We
caught
have
me there.
Dr. Bonnie Cham. She always bring great questions, and she says, let's see what she says here. Nova Scotia, which is the province here in Canada, makes organ donation after death more frequent. Unless you register, you do not want to be an organ donor, you are deemed to have agreed to be a donor.
Yeah, in Chile we have that also. Like that, what that question means that everyone by default is an organ donor unless they specify.
Yeah, because they realize that most people won't sign the donor card just not because they're against it, just because they're lazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Wait, Sarah Bloomberg is asking, where's Marcelo coming from? Canada, Israel? I don't know what that question means.
Yeah, she wants to know where.
I'm from Chile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Marcelo lives in Chile. He lived in Canada for what, like 30 seconds. So he has some Canadian experience, but yeah, he was born in Chile and he lives in Chile.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he studies in Chile.
Yeah, I study medicine here. Yeah.
And he's in Chile, but I'm Chile here in Canada. But that's a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a
difficult question, but so the question, going back to this law that makes everyone by default an organ donor. So the real question is, what should Jews do in the case? So here in Chile, for example, we had this law that everyone by default is an organ donator. Okay, unless he specifies he doesn't want, and you have to go to a notary and get a notarized paper that says I don't want to be an organ donor. But there's an exception. Here, your family can make the decision. The decision is made by the family, not by the team or the surgical team, right? So if the family doesn't want the person to, they don't want to donate the organ of their family, their relative, they don't. That's what happens here in Chile. I don't know what happens in Nova Scotia.
So so basically in Chile the family can still say no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's very interesting.
Yes.
But then again, I don't know how halachically it works, because we all know that in halacha there is a difference between doing something purposely or not doing anything, or just let it happen, right? It's also a concept. It's yeah. So let's talk a little bit about after death, right? Mm-hmm. Because as we were mentioning a little bit last week, we gave them a teaser about it, and it's about the problem of establishing halachically when a person is dead. Yeah. That's basically. And even in the Talmud, there is a controversy between what is the marker of death. Is it breathing, or is it the heart?
Right. So
they have this this example of the person under the rubble, and it's Shabbat, right? And then they were saying, if it's Shabbat, should you start removing the debris?
Rubble. Yeah.
And they would say, there were two opinions. One said you keep digging until you find the head. If the person is not breathing, you stop. Yeah. Because basically you're not saving a life. So it will be, the value involved will be desecrating the death, but you still cannot violate Shabbat to protect a dead body. So that's a different ethical thing, but as a saving a life, is it you remove the debris, you find the head, it's not breathing, it's dead. If it's breathing, it's alive, so you still have the obligation to save a life, you have to keep removing debris. And some others said you have to keep digging until you find the heart. Doesn't matter the breathing or not. If the heart is beating, right, that will tell you if a person is alive or not. And then they try to put the two opinions together, typically in the Talmud, and said, well, they're both right. What happened is one is talking about if you start from the head
Down.
and the other one is start from the feet up.
Yeah.
So basically, whatever happens first, if you go up and you find the heart and it's not beating, you stop. If you start up and you find the head and it's not breathing, you stop.
Yeah.
But then the consequences of accepting one versus the other are sometimes significant.
Yeah. So this concept, brain death, that's what we're going to talk about, is one of the
because tradition. Let's forget about death, brain death for a second.
Yeah.
What is the traditional marker for death in Judaism? Before we go to the times where brain death was a thing, and I believe that, and I found it. When was it? I took a note here because one find this rabbi from Moderna in Venice.
Okay.
That I think it was in the 17th century, with the very first time that somebody mentioned something that life resides on the brain.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, what was the marker?
The heart, right?
Heart.
Yeah, or breathing, you could say.
But it is the same?
No.
Because I don't think it's the same. But I'm
I don't
curious.
know. I don't know the Talmudic sources or previous sources, but the modern sources, there's this big discussion of what is it? Is it when he stops breathing, or is it when his heart stops beating? Right? And like everything in Judaism, we have a controversy. One says this, one says that. Right? So yeah.
Okay, so in general, you will say that is both.
Yeah. So
Traditionally.
there's this concept of cardiorespiratory death.
Okay, and that was
the heart stops beating and the person stops breathing.
And that was the traditional interpretation.
Yeah. But we have to add, what if the person stops breathing but his heart is still beating, right? Breathing by his own. So then that's the real question of brain death, right? A person who is brain dead, who is connected to a machine that keeps him breathing, his heart is still beating, right? Because all this, like the heart can beat on its own if it receives enough oxygen, right? So that's the question.
But the lungs won't move.
What?
The lungs won't move without the brain.
Yeah. That's spontaneous breathing.
Yeah. And Shelley Churchill says something very interesting here.
Further test for breathing.
They remember that's a traditional way to know if somebody was alive or not. That they will put a feather under the nose.
Yeah,
if the feather
it moves. Yeah.
If it moves, it's alive. Or the mirror.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's right.
Yeah. But so in this generation, then I guess the rabbis had a new controversy that was the concept of brain death.
Yeah. Why is this controversy? Let's put it. There's a lot of controversies about brain death. For example, can a Kohen, can he be in the same room with someone who's brain dead, right?
Yeah, okay, let's explain a little bit to our viewers what's going on here. Because according to Jewish tradition, the Kohanim, which are the descendants of the priests, are not allowed to be in the same room with a corpse.
Right.
Okay? Because the corpse in Judaism is the ultimate source of tumah, of impurity.
Yeah.
We always know that, for example, in traditional families, men and women, they keep distance because the woman, when she's having the period, she is impure, right?
Right.
She's but that's one source of impurity. But it says the worst source of impurity in Judaism is a corpse. So a Kohen is not allowed to be in the same room with a corpse. you guys, you may remember, or you may have experienced that sometimes you will see at the synagogue, whenever we have a funeral, that the Kohanim, they won't come to the sanctuary.
Yeah.
They will stay in a separate room where, at least at Shari Zedek, we accommodate that. We put a speaker there so they can go to this room that is separated from the sanctuary so they can listen to the funeral without actually going to the funeral. So the question is, what happened with a priest or with a Kohen in front of a person that is brain dead?
Right. So let's summarize everything because we can speak an hour about it.
No, that's fascinating. What is the ruling for that?
The ruling is that because there's a doubt of safek.
You see, this is what I like. We go all the way back to safek.
Right.
Now, because there is a doubt, the Kohen should not, right?
Kohen should not. Yes. So back to what we were talking about. These are all modern questions. There's not one answer to all these questions. So because that generates the concept of doubt. So because there's this doubt, the Kohanim can't be present in the same room of a brain dead patient. Yeah.
But then what is interesting is some of these rabbis will say the Kohen cannot enter to the room where the person is brain dead because it's considered as a corpse.
Yeah.
At the same time, will say that you cannot remove the organs because the person is still alive.
Yeah.
And but also because of safek.
Right.
That's what I said at the beginning, that safek can go both ways. Out of doubt, the Kohanim don't enter, and out of doubt, you don't remove the organs.
Yeah. So I'm going to answer a question by Sarah Bloomberg. So a Kohen can go to a funeral, but only to 7 types of relatives. Okay? Answering that question, it's his wife or husband, his father, his mother, his brother, his sister, his son or his daughter, or there's this 7th relative that's called the person who doesn't have any relatives. The Kohen can go only if he's the only one who's going to be in that funeral. So yeah.
Because of the mitzvah of burying the dead, that you cannot leave a body unattended.
And that's only the funeral, so they can't go visit their relatives after. It's really hard for them. Yeah. Okay, back to organ donation.
And safek.
Okay, so we were in the concept of brain death, right? So we have this question: the safek, the doubt, is the person who is brain dead really dead or alive, right? So then we have to go back to, when do you consider death? Is it breathing? Is it heart? So it's a really difficult question. It's, I would say, the most difficult question you could ask a Jewish person regarding halacha. And summarizing it, there are a series of big rabbis who go against this. Okay? Could be Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Those are the really big halachic authorities. They go against it. And what's novel and really new is that in 2009, the chief rabbinate of Israel allowed it.
But again, case by case.
Case by case, right? You told me, you sent me that the piece of news, right? That in 2009, the chief rabbinate, they permitted organ donation in brain dead patients, but with the exception that one rabbi or a doctor, but has to be in the ethics committee that takes the decision of doing this in a brain dead person, right? So that has to be case by case. There's no generalizing about brain dead people and everything. It's case by case.
Yeah, but it's what we said at the very beginning, that everything in organ donation in Judaism, including with the person alive, it's case by case.
Yeah.
And you should always look for the advice of a rabbi before you do anything this significant.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And But at the same time, I said that's why we decided to put together these sessions, so people could be aware of many things that sometimes we don't think about.
Yeah.
Right.
So the ruling in Judaism is everything you do could be could be a problem. So you should be aware. You should study. That's why we should study Torah. That's why we should study halacha, because everything we do in our lives can be a problem, or we could do it differently, and we don't know. So yeah, you have to consult with a rabbi, study by yourself maybe, but always with the guidance of someone who knows more than you, right?
Yeah, and Shelly just said something very interesting. I will put it here because this is huge. Good. This is huge.
Yeah, a person can't go rabbi shopping for an answer that he or she likes. So I remember seeing.
It says cannot. A person cannot.
Yeah, can't.
Basically, it said you should never do that. You know, you have your rabbi, which how you call it, Mara de Atra in Aramaic. And that's it. Once you have, but then you were saying something, right? You have to be very careful.
Yeah, you have to be very careful with what you do. And I remember that we talked the last session about this case of Rabbi Tats. Remember the hospital of South Africa? So I remember in that lecture that he was giving, he said, when you ask a Rab for an answer regarding something big, and he says, this is the answer, you don't go rabbi shopping like Shelly said. You stick with that answer. But if the Rab says, this is what you can do, or right, he doesn't give you a specific answer, okay, keep on going. But if the Rab says, do this, you can't do anything else.
Okay, so that's so it's all about how you ask as well, right?
Right. So if
you need to study halacha, so you know how to ask a rabbi.
Yeah. So in these books, these halachic medical halacha books, there's a whole chapter of what to ask the rabbi and what to ask the doctor. Right. You ask expecting what are you expecting to get from the rabbi? If you're expecting to get an answer, ask for an answer. If you're expecting to get an opinion, ask for an opinion. But ask the right question.
So I think we are running out of time, but I have one more question. Autopsies.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So autopsies. Autopsies in halacha are problematic. Why? Because we have this thing that's called desecrating the dead body, right? God made us in image and I don't know how you say it in English. Imagen y semejanza. We were made in the image of God.
The image of God, yeah. B'Tselem Elohim, yeah.
Yeah, we were made in the image of God, and our bodies are also in the image of God. So we have this concept that we don't touch or we don't desecrate a dead body if we don't need to. What is the need? Rabbi Tats puts in an example. Let's say we have a patient, we don't know what he has. Okay? He starts getting a rash in the stomach, and the rash is in squares, something that's never seen in medicine. Okay? The rash is in squares, something never seen. They are yellow squares, something that's never seen in medicine. Okay? And he says, okay, that person, no one knows what happens, he dies. They bury him. The next day, another patient comes, the same thing. The same symptoms. So all the rabbis say, you have to take that person out of his grave and do an autopsy to go and find out what happens, right? So if there's an immediate need to know what happened to this person and this knowledge can be used to save another life immediately, yes, you can do it. You can do an autopsy.
So in other words, it's not you can, you have to.
Yes, you have to.
So basically in Judaism, I would say either you have to or you're not allowed to.
Right.
It's never if you want, you do it. If you don't want, you don't.
Yeah, you have to do it because you're going to save the life of that person.
So basically, yeah, either you have to do it or
Yes.
you cannot do it.
And autopsies are also problematic because most of the times autopsies, like, they don't give so much relevant information.
Yeah, the
Right?
Talmud brings some very interesting examples when they are trying to acquit somebody who killed somebody else because it stopped the person, but it said even if you do an autopsy of the body, it could be that the person already had a hole
Right.
in the same place, so the autopsy
Yeah.
will never be 100%.
Yeah. So we have a comment here by Shelley. She says one doesn't have to do a complete autopsy. There's a partial autopsy. Yeah, she's right.
But it's still opening a cadaver.
It's still opening the cadaver. And okay, so the thing is that when you do an autopsy, the specific laws that rabbis give are you have to do it in the shortest way and the smallest incision as possible, right? You have to tamper the less you can with the body. So that's the concept, right? If you want to know what happened to him in his liver, you go for his liver. You don't go see his brain, right? So that's a concept.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating. Fascinating. So thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for participating. You know, again, here, Caroline said, is your son married? No, he's not.
No.
He's not. At least we gave one concrete answer tonight.
Yeah.
That was probably the only straight answer we gave about everything. But it's such a complex topic that I guess what I really, really like about halacha that they said you can't generalize.
Yeah, you can't generalize. That's right.
I think it's wise. I think it's wise to see that you should always find somebody that knows more than you.
Yeah.
Right? That will guide you and everything you need. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's really important to find yourself a mentor in everything. You know, in Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers, there's a phrase that says, "Aseh lecha rav, vekane lecha chaver." It means make yourself a rabbi and acquire a friend, right? So you always have to find yourself someone, and the Mishnah also says a rav doesn't have to be a rabbi. It can be someone who knows more than you, right? It says find mentors in your life. Don't go alone. It's very important.
Yeah, mentors make you smarter, wiser. Yeah. I once learned that the three things that make you wiser in life, and they're the rule of the 3 M's.
Okay.
The 3 things that makes you wiser. 3 M's.
Mm-hmm.
Mistakes.
Okay.
Mentors.
And
money.
Money
in the sense that you can buy a book.
Right.
Or you can buy a DVD with a webinar.
Right.
And it will make you...
I thought the third M was mothers, Jewish mothers.
Yeah, that's the 4 M's. That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, thank you, Marcelo, so much for your time. It's really gracious of you that you agreed to do this and to teach us.
Thanks for the invitation. I really enjoyed it. You made me do a lot of research about topics. Very interesting. So yeah, thank you very much, and thanks everyone for joining.
And they're wondering if you are going to return in the future. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? But it's
with COVID, it's not an option right now. Let's hope everything goes away. Yeah.
Unless you get vaccinated, right?
Yep.
Or we get vaccinated. But by the way, so everybody, don't forget. Look in the bottom of the screen. I have it there. Next session will be on Tuesday, February 16th at 7 p.m. And we have Betty Cohen. She's a psychotherapist and sex therapist. She's a big deal in the field. Actually, we are very lucky at the Sher Zedek that she agreed to have a session with us. You can Google her. She's being in this very famous TV shows, and she has a radio show. So it's going to be a great opportunity to interact with Betty and to ask her questions and everything. So that will be the next activity that we have prepared for you. Don't miss it. But for now, thank you again, Marcelo, for everything. Okay, it was great to have you. Thank you, everyone. for being there. Stay safe. Have a good night. And hope to see you all soon. Bye for now. Bye.
Bye-bye.